Alright YouTube, so welcome to Tekken Lessons with Whole Strike, and this will be the first in a very long video series where I help Tekken players of all skill levels improve their gameplay. Because what I've noticed is, if you look at YouTube and you look up Tekken tutorials, you'll certainly get, hundreds at this point, maybe even thousands of videos explaining, how to play certain characters better, just all kinds of very interesting move and attack patterns you can do with certain characters. Like there's certainly lots of good information out there. And while the tutorials have, great, benefit to a lot of players, I've learned a lot from them myself. But I think what they lack is they lack the really deep, detailed outline of how to improve your game, right? How exactly can you take someone who's, let's say, 4th Dan and get them to 8th Dan? What do they have to work on to go from 4th to 8th Dan? What exactly is the skill difference that they have to, what's the gap they have to bridge to actually get there? And so I divided my series into skill sets that are relevant to where you are rank wise. And so this video will be talking about how to leave the silver ranks, 1st through 3rd Dan, right? Let's take a look at these ranks. So you see here we have 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Dan, in that order. And if you want to get to initiate, there are certain things you want to work on, and that will be what we talk about going forward, right? The silver ranks, they're kind of the bottom of the totem pole. You have your, beginner ranks, but those don't really count because they're very easy to. You can get promoted even if you lose. If you lose 3 times in a row, I think. But I slightly digress. Let's just go over the basic overview of what we have to know. So silver ranks really consist of players who are really new to the game, and or they lack fundamentals, or a little bit, of course, both sometimes or oftentimes. So these players simply are just not good at Tekken yet, and that's okay because everyone has to start somewhere if they want to get good. So depending how high you want to go, obviously you want to watch more and more of my tutorial series, but if you just want to get to 4th Dan, this is probably the fastest way you can get there, I think. So let's discuss what Tekken's all about, right? So Tekken is really deep and complicated, right? There's a lot of things you have to know. To go from beginner to absolute high level is very, very hard to do. It's a huge gap. And I think a lot of players actually stop playing Tekken because they get frustrated by being stuck at their skill level. They don't know how to improve, and they quit the game. And I think that's a little bit of a shame because Tekken 7, I think, is a great game. And I think a lot of players, really the game. I think more players could enjoy the game if they knew how to improve and they knew how to play the game in a way that's more fun, so they don't get, beat up all the time. So that's Tekken. Just because it's complicated, don't let that discourage you. Tekken is complicated. That's fine. That's why I'm here to teach you how to improve your game. And honestly, with practice and knowing what to work on specifically, you'll get there. It takes time to really internalize all these lessons, but with practice and you putting in even minimal effort, you'll get there. And luckily for silver ranks, if you're in the silver ranks and you are already overwhelmed, don't be, because for these ranks, there's very little you have to actually work on. Very, very little. Honestly, I think the skill set that I'm going to talk about here can be mastered in 1-2 days. I honestly believe that. Maybe 3. And of course playing a little bit online. So let's talk about what actually to work on. So what I suggest, if you're really new to the game, consider picking an easy character. And what do I mean by easy character? I mean characters where their attack execution is very simple, meaning that the buttons you have to press to do certain attacks are very, very simple, not complicated, right? Like I know Akuma is a little tricky to use because he has very weird direction inputs you have to input for attacks, right? So that might be really off-putting to beginners who are not really used to, putting all of the buttons in the right order. And while you're starting out, it's just better to now focus on hitting an attack correctly. Because let's say you're playing an online match and you press an attack button, it doesn't come out the way you want it to come out. And this even happens for pros. Well, that's frustrating, right? So to avoid that whole problem, pick an easy character. And I made a little list right here of what the easy characters, what they involve. Well, I'll get to that in a minute, actually. I don't have it here on this slide. But anyway, so the most important thing at this skill level is that defense is tricky, right? Like players will try to attack you at the lower levels because defense is hard, right? Like a good defense, the best defense is a good offense. That's what some of these players, they have this mentality. And this will not work, will not get you very far. And if you have this mentality yourself, you'll notice you're not getting to 4th Dan because, again, you don't block. And that's essentially, you have to block. There's no way around it. You're not going to get to 4th Dan if you don't block. Guaranteed it. You might get there for a second, but you'll get demoted very quickly. So it's not a really reliable way to play the game. So you have to focus on that. And another key thing is when you're starting out, it's just good right now to start developing good habits, because if you start developing bad habits now, they'll be harder to break later, and it will slow down your progress, however high you want to go. So, and what you really need to work on are just the fundamentals, which I'll be talking about. And yeah, even players as high as 10th Dan have holes in their fundamentals. And this is not saying they don't know how to play the game at all. It's just simply saying that there is usually a large aspect of the game that they simply just have no clue how to handle. But that's not really relevant too much of the silver ranks. But just be aware that it takes time to develop these fundamentals. Like Tekken's complicated, like I said, but for silver ranks, you don't even have to know too much. Like honestly, even for these ranks, I don't even think you should learn a combo. Do not worry about combos if you're in the silver ranks. That will happen when you're 4th Dan and above. Then I'll talk about how to master combos. So these characters include, Kazumi, Lily, Fang, Law, Asuka, Jack, Lee, Layla, and Bob, right? These are characters with really simple inputs, and their combos aren't even difficult to execute, right? So when you eventually get to learning combos, they will not be hard to learn. So they're easy to attack with, and they're easy to combo with. So you already have a character where you can really, pick up the pace pretty quickly, right? So difficult characters include, we have Kazuya, Heihachi, Jin, Devil Jin, Akuma, Eliza, and Master Raven. These characters are hard because they have either really hard inputs, or it's really hard to play with them in a way that helps you to win. Like they have moves which are just difficult to execute, and it's hard to really win with them at the low levels because they're just simply harder to use. Again, with input execution is one factor of this. And Raven certainly is a very odd character, and she has so many moves, and really knowing how to use moves effectively takes way more time than, let's say, Bob or Leia. Like they have very simple moves, and it's much easier to play with them effectively at this skill level, and honestly even at some higher levels too. So those are what easy characters are all about. So what exactly do I mean by a situation, right? So a situation refers to a specific position of characters on the screen. So examples we have, opponent's back to the wall, you're back to the wall, you're on the ground, your opponent on the ground, because depending on what's going on, you're going to play differently, right? Like if you're on the floor, the other character could potentially stomp on you, right? They can't stomp on you if you're standing. So that is important, right? You got to respond differently to those situations. So, but thankfully, while Tekken has so many situations, that thankfully for the silver rank players, you don't have to know that many. I think the most important one is just honestly learning how to stop non-stop attacks. I think this is probably the most important thing. Knowing how to handle non-stop attacks takes time, but not too much time. And honestly, it's just a combination of block and counter attack. And certainly there are certain characters which are harder to counter against. Let's say Horang and maybe Eddie. They're harder to counter against for beginners, and that's okay. But either way, there are still certain ways to stop non-stop attacks that are true for any character. Like blocking is obvious, right? If you block a mid attack, no matter which character it is, you're gonna not take any damage. And same if you duck a high attack or block a low attack, right? So blocking is fundamental. Knowing how to counter attack, there are ways to interrupt a lot of attacks with a simple ducking jab. And I'll just show all this in a video, right? This will all be in a video so you guys can actually see it in action and just practice it yourselves. So in Tekken, movement and not power is everything. So the reason why movement is so key is because all the strategies from beginning to advance all involve some kind of movement, right? Like if you're blocking, you can block by standing, but typically it's better to just block by backing up. You still block all your mid and high attacks, right? So and you also make sure you're comfortable back dashing. So this is when you double tap the back button. And these are going to be your key defensive tools: backing up, backdashing, and then knowing how to just simply, how to do a ducking jab to interrupt attacks, and also some other things I'll teach you. Sidestepping is important to know. Like for beginners, what I've noticed is they don't sidestep a lot. Either they just don't know that they can, or they just don't take advantage of the sidestepping. Remember, Tekken's a 3D game, right? You can't really win high-level matches if you don't sidestep enough. Like it's just players will sidestep, and you have to know how to deal with sidesteps, and you have to be able to sidestep yourself. It's a very important skill because you can honestly. There's so many ways to counterattack if you know when to sidestep. So walking forward is actually not a good movement option. So if you're playing the game and you want to consider, let's say, what if I walk forward? That's not a good idea. If you actually want to bridge the gap, you want to forward dash instead, because you can't block while you're walking forward. And if you're trying to get in close to the opponent, forward dashing does it faster. So that means there's a smaller window where they can hit you, because they don't register that you're coming in before it's too late. So forward dashing, if you want to move in, forward dash, don't forward walk. That's just the better way to do it. And also jumping is not a good idea either, because if you jump and they catch you with a jab, they can actually start a full combo. So you don't want to get into the habit of jumping. It's usually a very bad idea. Some players at the high levels, they will jump as a gimmick, but that takes such deep knowledge to know when a jump is good to do and when it's not good to do. In general, it's not safe. So don't jump. Just don't do it. Now, for silver ranks, you guys don't have to worry about any deep level head tactics, right? No forward dash tactics, nothing like that. Because what some players will do at the high levels is they'll forward dash towards you because they know you're not going to attack them. And this way, they kind of stay in your face and they make you scared to attack because they make you think that they're always attacking you. And so you're kind of in a passive mindset. But thankfully, you guys only have to worry about, just simple basic defense and not this more advanced tactic, which will come later on as you improve your skill level. All right, guys, so this is the end of my tutorial. Hope you guys enjoyed it. So I'll be posting a few videos explaining all the stuff I went over in this video series. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitch. That's just Holo Strike without the slash. And so I'll be posting the videos probably sometime within the next week, as well as some more gameplay, of course. So good luck in ranked matches, guys, and I'll see you guys soon.